Hello there and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And here I am again, Phil, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. And today's video is part 4 of our second Power BI training series. And now that we've designed our backgrounds in the previous video, it's time to start building our visuals on the portfolio summary page with a new trick on conditional formatting. Let's do this. So let's take this visual over here, the clustered column chart, and let's start adding some data. So first of all, for my calendar, I want the year in the x-axis, I want the month also, and then as far as my budget information, I want my actuals in the y-axis and I want my budget in the y-axis, like so. Now what I'm going to do over here is in the formatting on general, I'm just going to set my height and width of this. That's going to be, height's going to be 246 and my width is going to be 715, like so. Okay, now I don't want these titles here on my x and my y axes. So I go back to my visual, x axis, I'm going to turn off the title. And then on the y axis, I'm going to turn off the title for that also. And I don't want the legend. I'll take care of that in a later video. Okay, so that looks fine so far. Now the one thing I'm noticing on these values as well is that the formatting. So let me just go to budget data, select actuals, and over here in the column tools, I'm just going to change this to a currency, English pounds, United Kingdom, like so. And let's do the same for the budget information. Set that to English United Kingdom. And while I'm at it, I'm going to do it for the year to date as well. So let's do that. And again, change that format to English. Let's take the budget and change that to English pounds as well. Right. Now you'll notice that the months here are all out of order, out of sync. So let's sort that here because we want it going from January to December. So the three dots here, I'm going to click that. I'm going to do sort axes by year and month. I'm then going to reselect it and say sort by ascending. And there you go. So that's now in order. Wonderful. I want to change this title. So the title, to do that, I'm going to go to General and I'm going to go to shrink the properties down. Let's go to Title and I'm just going to do Control-A to select all the text in there. And then I'm going to overtype that and make it financials hyphen budget versus actuals for year, like so. And let's make that bold as well. Typo there, make that bold. And there you go. So let's sort our columns out now. So on this, if I go to my visual and I shrink down the y-axis there and select columns. So the first one's going to be sum of actuals. So the colour, I'm going to make that a light blue. And I'm going to switch on the border and I'm going to make the border match the column colour. So I'm going to switch that on there. So that's automatic. Then I'm going to select our budget column and I'm going to make it, so remember you don't have the option not to fill, so I'm going to do white, make that 100% transparent. I'm going to switch on the border, make that this dark blue here, and as far as the width of that border, I'm just going to make it 2, so it just sticks out a little bit. With that done, I'm then going to select, as far as the columns, I'm going to select, make sure I've got all selected, and then down here I'm going to expand the layout here, and I'm going to say I want them to overlap, and then the spaces between, I'm just going to set that to 100% so they then overlap like so. Let's switch on our data labels. Wonderful. Let's expand that, and as far as all of them are concerned, the values, I just want them to be an 8 font to make them slightly smaller. And then I'm going to select the budget series and again expand the value, and I just want that to be bold and italic like so. Now I've done that, I want to sort out the border and the edges of this and put a shadow on it for the design. So again, on general here, I'm going to go to effects, and I'm going to switch on the border. I'm going to make it light blue, and then make the corners rounded. I'm just going to enter 10 there, and I'm going to add a shadow. Switch on the shadow. So let's click off that. So I'm happy with that. Now I've got the formatting. Let's just put this down to the bottom, and I'm just going to use the down arrow key just to move it by increments. And then I'm going to copy that visual because I like the formatting as far as the size, etc. So I want to keep all that and just replace the data and then to reformat the data. So if I do Control copy and then Control V to paste, and I move that up there. So let's just change the title of this so I'm not confused. So again, I'm going to go to the formatting, general, the title. Again, I'm going to click inside that text, do Control A to highlight it all, and let's change the title to something more meaningful for resources. So I'm going to go, and there you go. So resource demand versus capacity in hours for year. So let's then go to our data elements. So I want to get rid of these two here and replace it with resource information. So within our data model, the total demand and total capacity sits within our calendar. So if I take the total demand and I drop that in the y-axis, and then I take the total capacity and drop that in there also, and again let's just format this. So if I go to the formatting, we'll go to the columns, let's go to first of all total demand, again make that light blue, switch on the border, make it match the column color. Wonderful. Then let's go to total capacity, and here let's make that white, 100% transparent. Let's switch on that border and again make that a dark blue here, and make the width 2 points there so it stands out. And then finally, because it will have remembered the font is 8, is I'm just going to, on the total capacity, on the data labels, is on the data labels, on total capacity, here selected, I'm just going to go to the value, make it bold and make it italic, like so. So now we've got our column chart for our resources, and we've got our column chart for our financials. So let's create some summarized data here, and also I'll show you how a new way of doing conditional formatting using a measure. So let's first of all create our first data card, get that format right, and then we'll copy that and paste it, because I want year-to-date actuals, year-to-date budget. I want a percentage variance with a conditional formatting. Is it within that 10% target, plus or minus, and then what my total budget is. So let's do our first. So I'm going to take actuals here from year to date table. I'm going to drag it over and drop it. And it's obviously set it as automatically as a bar chart. So with that selected, I'm just going to select the card visual here to change it. And again, let me just, we need to change some settings here. So if I go to the formatting, as far as the call out value, I'm going to make that size, the font size 25. Yeah. As far as, let me shrink that down there. And then as far as the category label, I'm just going to make that 8, like so. Now here on the actuals, I'm going to rename this for this visual. So I'm going to right click on it and do rename for this visual. And I'm going to take off the sum of and just add YTD for year to date and hit return. And then I want to make this size. So again, as far as the size is concerned, I'm going to go to my formatting, general, so expand the properties and make the height 85 and make the width 152. I'm then going to shrink down the properties and go to the effects. And this time on the background, I'm going to make that 40% transparent, so some of the background bleeds through. I'm going to switch on my border. Let's make that light blue. Again, make the corners rounded. And let's switch on the shadow. So again, that looks good to me. So let's take that as our template and do Control Copy, Control V. So that'll be for our year-to-date budget. Let's do it again. This one will be for our year-to-date variance, which will be a percentage, which we need to create. We haven't created that, so we need to create a calculated column and some measures to go with it. And then one more for the total budget. If I just take these, select both of them, let's move them down. As you notice, red lines appear where it's helping us align things here. So let's take this first one and let's swap this out for year-to-date budget. So get rid of the year-to-date actuals, take the budget, drop it in the field, and I'm going to rename it for this visual. Right click on it, rename for this visual, and again just take that sum of out and do YTD for year-to-date and hit return. So that one's easy. Let's do this one and then we'll handle the percentage. So this is going to be our budget. So let me shrink that down, open up our budget table. I'm going to get rid of the year-to-date actuals and then put budget in there. And again, I'm just going to rename this to be, for this visual, to be total budget. Yep. So as far as the percentage variance, we're going to have to create some a calculated column first to get our year-to-date variance. So again, with this table selected, in the column tools, I'm going to select a new column. And I'm going to call this, in this formula bar, I'm going to call it YTD, year-to-date variance, and do equals. And the formula is going to be, so if I start typing year-to-date for that table, is year-to-date budget minus year-to-date actuals. So that's what the variance is going to be. And obviously, depending on that variance, it can either be a plus or a minus. Again, I'm going to make sure this is currency, like so. And now I've created that, I can now create some measures. So I need a measure for the percentage. So what does that represent as a percentage of the year-to-date budget? So what I'm going to do is on the home ribbon, again, still selected within this table here, on the home ribbon, I'm going to do new measure. And I'm going to call this new measure year-to-date variance percentage. So that's going to be YTD, short for year to date, and I'm going to do VAR, short for variance, then the percentage sign, equals. Now, because the variance can be a plus or minus, I need to make it absolute. So I'm going to do the ABS function. Because this is a measure, I'm going to wrap it in a sum. So sum, year to date, variance. So there's that variance column we created. I'm going to close the sum and close the absolute. And then to get that percentage, I'm going to divide that by sum, year to date, budget. Then close the bracket on the sum, and that then gives me the variance. And if I then hit that as a percentage, and now with this selected, I can get rid of that column, and I can take this year-to-date percentage measure that I created and shove it in there. And there we go. So now I want to make this conditional formatting. Now, in the previous Power BI training series, the way that we did it within a card, remember, is I went through format, the value, and then through the color, you do the conditional formatting against the font, and we used the rules, and we set a rule within that visual itself. But now, because of the type of Power BI report we're doing here, where we're going to have a number of visuals representing resourcing, I don't want to create a rule in each individual visual. I want to be able to use a measure that will then automatically influence the conditional formatting on any of the visuals against that one single rule, where I set it once as a measure. And the way that I'm going to do that is again within this within the year-to-date budget data, because this is where we're setting the performance measure against the year-to-date. And what we're looking for is if it's equal to 10% or less than 10%, then they're within target. If it's over 10% plus or minus, then it's over target, and therefore they're outside of the target. So we're going to go green inside target, red outside target. So how do we set that with a measure? So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to do a new measure, and I'm going to call this year to date, right, YTD, VAR percentage, in fact, no, VAR percentage rag. That's what I'm going to call it. And this equals. So I'm going to do Alt Return, and I'm going to use the switch function, which works similar in the same way as we do in Excel. So you've got an expression, and then you've then got, based on, well, what comes out of that. So you've then got a calculation and then what to do with it. Yep. So if I do switch, and I'm going to do Alt Return, so my expression is going to be, I'm looking for a true answer. I'm going to do Alt Return again for a new line. So I'm going to do comma, and what I'm looking for is year to date, and this only works on the measures. So if the year to date, this variance here, percentage, if that's less than or equal to 0.1, i.e. 10%, then output green, the colour green, in quotation marks. Then if I do Alt Return again, now there's no other question that we're asking here, so I'm going, if that's not true, you don't find anything else, then the default is going to be red. Set that to red. And then I'm going to do Alt Return and then close the bracket on that switch and then hit return. So I've now created that measure, that rag measure there. So with that in mind, I'm going to select this card now, and again against the font, so the call out value against the font, I'm going to do this FX for conditional formatting, and this time I'm going to set it based on a field value, and that field value is going to be that new measure we've created. So if I do the drop down, scroll down to year to date budget data, expand that, select our year to date variance rag and click OK. It's because it's within 10%, it's set it to that green. If it wasn't 10% or less, then it would set it to red, and that's what would happen. So there's a new way of doing a new measure. I've used the switch function. I'm looking for where it's true. So obviously this is less than 10%, so therefore it's true. And it's doing green. So that statement's true. It's going to set it to green. Otherwise it would set it to red. And there you go. So there's a new way of doing that. So let's now, before we end this video, let's just add some filters on here. So let's add, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this slicer new, not this slot, so not this one here, but this one. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to, on the portfolio expert table, I'm going to drop category in the field. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set some, again, in the format, general, properties, let's just set a height and a width for this. So it's going to be, height's going to be 77, and I'm going to make the width 875. I'm then going to go into the actual visual itself, the visual formatting. As far as the layout's concerned, so we've got styles going to be cards. I only want one row. I'm going to do a max of, say, 6 columns there, like so. I'm then going to go to the shape, and I'm going to take a rounded rectangle, and I'm going to select customize style, switch that on, and you just watch what's happening up here to the shape as I'm doing this. And all I'm going to do is make the top right corner 30, just to round it, like so. Yeah. I'm then going to shrink that back down. I'm going to go as far as the go back to general, and then on the titles here, I'm just going to make that title bold, like so. Shrink that down, go to effects, and I'm just going to switch off the background because we don't need it. And then I'm going to take this, move it down, align, trying to align this to the edge of there, using the arrow keys, just bring it down a little bit. And again, just take this, shrink it a little bit, and then I've got this alignment here. So there's a slicer there. I'm then going to add my filter options over here. So the first one's going to be for my resources, which is going to be skill set. So I'm just going to drop that there. And again, I'm just going to shrink it so it fits. Make this field a little bit wider. And again, on here, I'm just going to go column header and make it bold so it stands out. Yeah. I'm then going to go to general. I'm going to go to the effects. I'm going to make it 40% transparent on the background. I'm going to turn on the border. I'm going to make that light blue. And I'm going to make it rounded edges, like so. I'm not going to put a shadow on it. And there you go. And then I'm going to take that, and I'm going to do Control Copy, Control V to paste it. So this will be for my resource filter, and then I'm going to do, move that down a little bit more, and then Control V again. This one will be, so this will be for my projects. Yeah. So let's take this one. Let's get rid of the skill set. Take the program, drop that in there. Let's make that a little bit wider. Select this one. Let's get rid of the skill set, and let's drop the project in there. And again, let's make that a little bit wider. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how these interact with the visuals that we've got so far. So let me select the slicer. On the format ribbon, I'm going to edit interactions. So yeah, filter, that's fine, filter. As far as the categories, again, it can filter these as well. Let's take the skill set. So this is a table I'm using as a filter. And again, this is to highlight. I don't want that. I want it to filter. I want that to filter. But as far as the skill set, it doesn't affect any of the budget information. So I'm just going to switch that off as far as the interactions on those cards. And then let's select the program. And again, on here on the skill set, it doesn't do anything as far as the financials are concerned. And on the program piece, again, it does filter that. It does filter the financials, and it does filter these as well. And then as far as the project is concerned, again, filter, filter, and then everything else is set to filter. So now this all works. This is obviously not impacted as far as the budgets are concerned. If I take project 2, these are all filtered. You can see this rag is being set based on that performance, and these are all working accordingly as well. And there you go. So that's where I'm going to end this video. So I'm going to click save. So remember to save your work at regular intervals, because Power BI desktop does not auto save. And in the next video, we'll finish off the resourcing summaries cards here, which will have slightly more complex DAX formulas that we'll walk through for those measures, and we'll just top and tail this here. And then if we have time, we'll make a start on our resource summary in the next video. So I hope you found that informative and useful. If so, please click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button. And as always, I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.